Well, hi guys, it's that time. It's our Bible teaching snippet of the day. Well, today I'm going to do another little special teaching that I've been asked about, okay? So I want to do that. I want to talk about, I had someone ask me to talk a little bit more about the hair DNA. They recalled that when Tonya, my friend from Texas, came and we did 4 sessions together, she talked about having her hair DNA done, and I've talked about me. I'm the one that told her about the hair DNA. But so she had her hair DNA done, and she talked about in those videos a couple of weeks back about how she had acetone poisoning or toxins in her body. And she was trying to figure out how in the world she picked up acetone poisoning. And then she remembered she was on the keto diet. So she got on and started looking, and yes, acetone poisoning is a result of eating a very, very high meat diet. And you can get on and I wish she was here. I would prefer her teach you a little bit more about this because she's the one that studied all that out. But I wanted to talk to you about the hair DNA testing a little bit deeper. And I got her permission to do this, guys, so she knows that I'm going to talk about this. But yes, the keto diet, when you take in a lot of protein, and she talked about how when you eat a high diet of animal meat, animal flesh, that for your body to offset that meat rotting in your intestines is that your body will pull calcium from your bones and make your bones weak, okay? And that's one reason so many Americans have osteoporosis, and when we have our bone scans, by the time we're 40 years old, we got frail, weak bones, okay? It's because our bodies are working overtime to offset the toxins that's in our digestive system, okay? And it's pulling the calcium to level that off from any place it can get. And the only place it can go when we're low of calcium is straight to our bones. And I want to talk about that just a little bit more today. So I talked about that, and I've talked about how the keto diet keeps you in what they call ketosis, and that means that you have a lot of animal proteins in your digestive system, or animal meat. Well, I'll use Tanya's rotting flesh in your stomach that your body has to offset. So today I asked her if I could talk a little bit more about this, because she and I talked, and she was saying, oh, I wish I had a thought about it and talked about the fact that I had parasites, worms, and flukes throughout my entire body, and that is caused through the eating and ingesting of animal meat as well. So let me talk about this just a little bit, because this is one of the things that very few doctors will find unless they do a specific test, and they don't do it. It has to be an aha moment of, oh, well, let's check for this, okay? But usually a regular blood panel or test done by doctors will not reveal whether a person has parasites or flukes or worms, okay? When we eat, now there are certain meats that are more apt to give you parasites and flukes, okay? And that is going to be pig meat. And the animals, believe it or not, this is really odd. The animals that are listed under the old Mosaic laws that people could not eat in that day, those are kind of the animal cleaners, whether they're land animals or water animals. They're called unclean because they eat unclean things. They're basically the vacuum cleaners for the earth and the water. So all of what they're taking in is dead, decayed animals that they're eating, okay? So they have parasites in them, okay? And when we eat those products, we are taking into our bodies those same parasites that they have. I did some studies on pork, and did you know that you can't cook it, burn it, or freeze it and kill all the parasites and flukes and things that is in pig meat? You can't even freeze it and then turn around and thaw it out, cook it, and burn it, and it kill those parasites, okay? So that's where we get a lot, and it's easy also, and I'm not trying to hurt anybody or say anything negative about any business. Please don't hear that in what I'm going to say. It's easy to get flukes, parasites, and worms and things like that from eating at buffets because of sometimes the cross-contamination of foods. Sometimes we get sick because a sick person may have coughed or sneezed or even got their germs on the utensils we're using right behind them to dip the same food on our plate. So we have to be careful with that too. I don't really eat buffets very often because I don't really care for that type of dining, okay? I never did that when I was a meat eater, okay? So I do eat at buffets, but it's usually only every once in a while when it's someone else's, when I'm with someone else, and I'm trying not to be offensive to them, okay? But so let's talk about this. I want to talk to you a little bit about Tonya's hair DNA test because she gave me permission that I could talk about it, okay? Now, I'm going to show you a little bit of that test, and you can see up here, I didn't mark it, but there's the toxins that were in her, and I don't know if you can see it, but here's the one that says she had acetone poisoning and a copper deficiency. She had lead and copper poisoning in her bodies as well, some metals, but she did have that acetone poisoning. Now, the next thing I want to show you, because I think this is so important, you know, people think we're told that we need protein, and the only place we can get protein is through eating animal products. I'm going to show you Tonya's report, and I'm going to let you see for your own self that even though she ate extremely high amounts of meat at breakfast, lunch, dinner, and any time she worked out, she said that on her videos, okay, that she ate a very, very high portion of meats 3 times a day. I'm going to show you that she was low on protein, okay? So I'm debunking the lie that we have to go through a middleman called an animal to get protein. Where do the animals get their protein? From the plants they're eating. But we're going to the middleman, killing the animal and eating the animal so we can get animal proteins, which, by the way, our bodies cannot digest and use the way it needs to. We need pure protein, which comes through plants, not animal protein, okay? So let me show you her protein percentage by a woman who ate animal meat at least 3 times a day. And right here, you can see she was at, where is that? 40% down here is where there it is, protein, 40%. And if you could get 100% of the protein that you need by eating animal meat, that one person, this girl right here, would have been popping 100%, not 40%, right? So, yes, our bodies do need protein, but we need the right kind of protein that our bodies can process and use as energy, okay? Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to just show you on this report, it says that she has flukes, parasites, and worms, and I'm going to show you that she had parasites, flukes, and worms. She had them in her blood, in her liver, and in her lungs. Right here on page 2, it shows all of her different data on the health of her different organs. And I want to make sure I let you know this. Her lungs and respiratory system, she said she had shortness of breath. Well, of course she did. She had flukes and stuff in her lungs. Her blood and blood vessels, she had flukes in them. Her liver, 55% functionality, but she had flukes in her liver. And even she said that she had a skin problem, right? And she had toxins as well as flukes. So all of this high meat eating that she was doing was keeping those flukes and those worms and parasites alive and reproducing throughout her body. And did you know people have actually died of heart failure, respiratory failure, liver failure, and never even knew that they had flukes and worms and stuff living and growing and reproducing in their bodies because they were misdiagnosed, because many of the symptoms that you have, like shortness of breath, the irregular rhythm of your heart, they'll call it hypertension, and sometimes you've actually got flukes or parasites in your heart, and it's impeding the functionality of those heart muscles, okay? And then, of course, you can have stomach issues because your stomach has a lot of flukes in it. You can have diarrhea because you've got these flukes and worms living in your bowel tract. There's so many different side effects of people who have flukes or worms and parasites that don't know about it. But I can tell you this. Again, I want to repeat myself. The biggest contributor to us getting worms and flukes and parasites in our bodies is through our diet and eating the wrong things. And yes, you guessed it. It is actually animal meat and animal byproducts that will generate these flukes, worms, and parasites. Okay? So just pray about that, and you know, I'm going to stop here and say this. A lot of people take it with the teachings that I'm doing about us going to a plant-based diet is I'm taking them too far. May I ask you a question? Am I really taking it too far because I love people enough to tell you the truth so that you can walk in health, right? Am I going too far to tell you what God's very best is, what it was, and what it is, and what it always has been, and what it will be again in a nonviolent earth where we walk in peace with each other, with the animals, and what's best for the earth. Guys, I'm not trying to condemn anybody or make them feel bad for the things that they've done in the past. I can tell you, this girl right here, I have done a lot of stupid things in my lifetime, things that I did not understand and consider the consequences of. I did them in ignorance. And at the top of the list, one of them would definitely be believing that, well, not even questioning it. I have to say this, I don't think I ever questioned our culture and customs of what we've been taught to eat. So number one, I didn't question what I believed or thought about diet, okay? And then even after you start thinking and waking up to it, you wonder how we could be so deceived through advertising and the lies that we've been taught through TV commercials, the meat industry, and even the drug industry, and even our own government. And so we're eating all of these horrible, horrible products that's making us sick, right? And then we're forced into going to a doctor to try to figure out how to stop being sick and be able to get up and function. So we end up on a bunch of prescriptions. So I guess my question in my heart and in my mind today would be, what is me going too far that I would love God's people, all people, enough that I would talk to you about your health and tell you that I want the very best for you? I don't think there's a way I could go too far to express how much I love every single person, every unborn baby, every woman who desires to have a baby, every person who desires to walk in health and not be sick, for every person that doesn't want to be caught up in this, what we call the matrix of being sick and taking medications so that we can just barely survive in life. No, I want you to walk in the land of the living, not the land of the dying. And I would like for you to be one of those who is thriving in life, not just barely getting by. So I hope that you hear my heart when I'm talking about eating a plant-based diet, because it lines up with God's perfect will for how He created us and how He created the earth. Okay, guys? I love you, and I will see you here next week. Bye-bye.